Hello, hey everyone. Me, Bonnie Violet. I'm a transgender queer spiritual drag artist, and you are Splintered Grace. And this is my co-host.
Hey, everybody. We are excited to have you join us tonight. It's been a wonderful, fabulous week, and we're excited about the topic that we have. But before we go there, how was your week,
hmm
Bonnie?
My week. It's been a doozy of a week. To be honest with you, I went to the ER on was it earlier in the week, for like a
Yeah,
blood pressure, high
yeah, it
blood
was
pressure
scary.
situation. It was scary. It was maybe scarier than it needed to be, I think, but it was still scary. And luckily, nothing major. Um, I haven't got the bill yet, so uh,
Yeah, it's
I,
all fine until the bill comes, huh?
yeah, yeah. So overall, it was a fairly good experience as far as like, yeah, it was like as far as, yeah, it was a good experience considering what was going on, but all is well now. How about you? How was your week?
My week is good. I've had a good week, staying busy. Thank goodness I didn't have a emergency room visit. But just working around the garden, enjoying the cooler weather here in the mornings,
Mm,
and yeah, looking forward to having you come for a visit. So
I know it's just
just
like,
throwing that out there.
yeah, it's like what, like a week and a
About a week and a half.
half-ish?
Yeah,
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 yeah. Yeah, so
yeah,
I'm excited. I can't wait to be in the same room with you too.
yeah. It'll be fun. So hopefully we
Yes,
don't
yes.
run you ragged while you're here.
That's okay. I can handle it, I think.
Well, hey, I just wanted to kind of I don't know, get our juices flowing and get us ready for the topic that we have. And the topic we have, as everyone has seen all week, is forgive them for they know not what they do. And I just was curious, Bonnie, what brought us to this topic? The last couple of
Mm.
weeks, we've been pulling stuff out of the Bible specifically to talk about. And is there any particular reason why you pulled this one out?
No, I mean, it's just something that's kind of been on my mind for a while. As far as like, I don't know, it's like a phrase, from the Bible, like from the crucifixion, from what Jesus said to the people who were um, putting him on the cross and killing him. And, he said, forgive them for they know not what they do. And I think in that particular situation, there might have been obviously like a good guy, bad guy kind of situation. Um, but I think for me, and we've talked about this a lot of times, like
Yeah.
over, like in different ways over the season. And this is our last episode, like this season. So I thought it might be a good topic for us as we're like summing things up. Um,
Ah,
yeah. So and like for me, I feel like I wonder if there's a way that I can put that phrase, if you will, into work in my life. Like, would it benefit me if I could approach with forgiveness, I guess, um, from people who cause harm?
mm,
Um, I think the other aspect to me is like I was always kind of curious about, like people who think that because I'm trans or because I'm gay, that that like I'm going to hell, or that like I think it's coming from a space of them wanting, like, I think maybe it's coming from a place of caring, right? It's coming from a
yeah,
place of like not like um not knowing
yeah,
fully how their actions are impacting the person on the other end, and their intention is not to harm, um, but a lot of harm does happen when that takes place.
yeah, yeah. You're right. You're right. I think you're right on all those
Right.
counts. So this particular passage in the Bible also
Yeah.
is near and dear to
Um,
my heart. So go ahead. Oh, were you going to say something?
and do you want to talk about it? It seems
Oh,
like we have a little bit of like a
yeah, because I
no, I
thought you
think
were
we're just having like
a digital
a
problem.
glitch.
Okay, sorry. Because I thought, oh, you had something more to say. I didn't want to interrupt you. I apologize. So yeah, this particular passage it has uh, I lost my train of thought. Has is very important to me. This is like you had said. This is something that Jesus said just before he died, or in the process of being crucified, and he covered everybody. He's like, Father, I'm going to cover these folks. I'm going to forgive them, for they don't understand what it is that they're doing. I want to make sure we understand that doesn't take away the fact that they were doing something wrong. They were committing a murder, but he wanted to represent them in the light that because they didn't understand what they were doing, that there needed to be hope for them to have forgiveness and salvation. So yeah, I take a lot of this brings me a lot of peace because I blow it a lot, and sometimes even I'll represent God in a way that's not correct because I don't understand that I'm not doing it correctly, just kind of like what you talked about. And I'm grateful to know that when I do that, if I ask for forgiveness, that it's available to me not just from God, but hopefully from the people that are the person that I may have offended.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
yes, I think that's a great way to try to lead out and live your life, is knowing
Mm-hmm.
that people aren't perfect.
Yeah. And I often like the relationship I want to have with God. A lot of the times the relationship that I have with God is a reflection, or like that's how I learn how to be in relationship with others. And so it's like, how can I approach somebody as if maybe they don't know the harm that they're causing? We've all dealt with plenty of people in our lives who don't fully understand us, who or we don't feel understood or seen fully, or that sort of thing. And at least I have. And in that uh, in that experience, harm can sometimes be done when people don't understand how their actions can impact another person.
Mm,
And I think sometimes people can come to understand or come to notice that they're having that impact on somebody else. But I think, and I wonder sometimes if just sometimes people aren't going to get it. And for me, it's like, how do I deal with that potential of, somebody continuing to say, step on my foot, um, every time I see them because they don't understand that I don't know, have big feet. um, you know, and so it's like, and I can even tell them or talk to them about it, but they can't seem to really grasp what it what it means.
yeah. Oh, the Bible talks about that specifically, that we should forgive people 70 times 7.
Mm,
And so I think we've always got to approach them with a heart of forgiveness. If there comes a point where they just refuse, or they for whatever reason, or maybe they don't have a scriptural reason to not act appropriately, then you may have to decide that maybe that person's not the person you need to spend the bulk of your time with or as much time
hmm.
with. Still
Yeah,
love
definitely.
them, still engage with them, and be, whatever, loving and kind to them, but you just may not engage with them as often. At least that's
Yeah,
how
yeah.
I kind of handle that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get that. It totally,
Mm.
like, yeah, like space from people, like, because I don't know, like I serenity is something, and peace is something that I want to experience as much as I can.
Yeah,
um,
yeah, I think we all want
and
that.
and if I'm taking things personal, that aren't personal, or I'm being, you know what I mean, like I'm being, uh, I don't know, repeat offended in a way that is because of somebody's inability. I don't, you know what I mean? Like it's like I can either
Yeah,
choose to be mad and angry and hold on to that resentment, um, or I could, forgive them, or
yeah.
you know, I don't. So I think that's part of it. It's like how do I know when to step away? How do I know, um, like all those sorts of things. Yeah.
I think that's just a discernment that we go, but when we step away, we got to make sure that we're still praying for these folks. Because just like they don't understand, or they're lost, or even they're being misguided by maybe someone else in their life, and so they're just trying to find their own space, or they're trying to figure it out, or even sometimes just trying to belong the best that they
Hmm.
know how. And I think if we continue to be kind and loving, engage when necessary, even if we've had to take a step back and we can't maybe be in their circle a lot, but make sure we're praying for them, that they could figure out who they are, that they could figure out that they're not following the right way or the moral path of being loving and kind to the people around them, or even being offensive. If you
Hmm.
find that they don't care, then that's a whole nother conversation.
Right.
You still need to pray for them, but then at that point, then as much as I pray for them and I'm polite for them, I don't engage.
Yeah. Yeah. I recently an interview came out recently for the Light of Mine podcast um,
Okay.
that I did a while back on. We were talking about the Pray Away film,
Mm,
um, and one of the sound bites or one of the things that came out of that was pray for, you
mhm,
know, like pray, don't like pray for that for the person, say to get closer to God, or pray that I'm changed or my understanding is changed, not necessarily, you know what I mean,
mhm.
directly, um, which we've said a number of times too. Um, but the other thing I was gonna say though is like, you know, I I want to be on the other side of this statement as well too. You know, I I know that there's been times in my life when I have caused harm,
Mm.
and I have maybe encouraged or led people in it, like you know what I mean, like led people in a way that um, I wouldn't do today. You know, like I've
Yeah.
come to understand things a little bit differently. And in this Pray Away film, a big part of it was these folks who were ex-gay, kind of folks who helped people, uh, like they. Some people call it gay conversion therapy, but they were helping gay people not be gay anymore, and they had been gay before. They're all not gay. I mean, they're all out gay people now, and so it was something that didn't work, but it was something that went on for a long time, and it caused a lot of harm to a lot of people. Um, and so it's like, and they were. I mean, I don't believe they had any malintention. I don't believe
Right.
that they set out to hurt folks, but they did. And I think just as much as I want to use that message when I'm with other people, I also need it. I need it
Oh,
from
yeah.
folks too. You know.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think we all do. That's where grace comes in, and our ability to, I don't know, let people be human,
Hmm.
because none of us are perfect, and hopefully we're all working towards being better, or being the best us we can be.
Yeah. Well, and I one of the things we talked about too, and maybe even something for you, it's like, do you ever worry about how people will be impacted by like what you say? And maybe they'll like maybe like it'll be something you'll, I don't know, learn something different about it later. Do you know what I mean? Like I feel like sometimes
Yeah,
people give us a lot of power, and we have a lot of power sometimes in people's lives and experiences, and we shouldn't. Like I don't know. I sometimes have that challenge of like, um,
well, we all have a circle of influence around us. I mean, we don't. I mean, that's just how it is. We're a role model to a certain extent from the people that are placed around us, because they're watching
mhm,
us for to learn things, watching us to correct things, watching us to, for all different kinds of things. And so that's
yeah,
kind of out of our control. The only
yeah,
thing that we can really control is to be, I believe, who God created us to be to the best of our ability, to try to be as loving and kind and understanding to people, be vulnerable when you need to be vulnerable, be strong when you need to be strong. And in those moments when you feel like, or you realize that you're overstepped or that you're incorrect, go back to them and say, I'm really sorry. That wasn't my intention. I didn't mean to hurt you, or I didn't realize I was hurting you.
right,
Without that
yeah,
last step, I think it's hard for people to move forward.
hmm, yeah. And I think in thinking in that too, it's like, and also not. I think part of that too is when I'm holding other people's experiences or perception on what works well or what works doesn't in some sort of I can give that too much power too. And I think maybe if I'm feeling like oftentimes, like something, I have some insecurity about that, like I want to talk to people and I want to have a positive impact with folks. I want them to maybe make changes in their lives or help them to be better in some way in their life. So it's like that's something that I want to do, but then also like don't necessarily really have the power to do yet. um, I still need to show up. Like I still need to be an instrument for. an instrument for God. So I think
Yeah.
that's like that I think that's that thing that can be challenged with is like, okay, I'm just like the instrument, I'm the
Yeah.
channel, I'm not the thing. And
Yep.
that's the same thing that I is probably important for me to recognize when I'm having that experience with other people, that it's not
Mhm.
that person, but it's coming through that person.
Right. Right. I think that's good wisdom. So, one thing I struggle with is I can get so excited, or I can get so, I don't know, I can see the potential in someone, and I get so excited that sometimes I commandeer their project or their
Mhm.
vision or their whatever. And I've had to learn to be real careful about that, because when that happens, sometimes it takes away from what they're doing, because I've just like thrown all of my stuff in their fray. And sometimes they'll even pick up some of that stuff, think, oh, that's a great idea. And they'll pick that up and run with it, but it's not what they're supposed to be doing. They're
Mhm.
supposed to be doing something different that's more unique to who they are. And it doesn't conform to some of the things that, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So I realized as I've gotten older and more mature, and gained some wisdom, that a part of being supportive and encouraging and loving and kind to someone is to give them the space to have their own experiences, but to do my best to provide a safety space for them to have that experience and be available for them, if they come and ask me. And when they
Mhm.
do, to always be honest, because if I'm not honest, even if they get angry at me, then I'm taken away from both of us. And that I don't think is beneficial to any of us.
Yeah, yeah. I feel that. Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, I think it gets like I don't know, it's like as I'm getting older, it's like coming to it, like I am the only one who knows my own experience, and so
Mhm.
I think sometimes I need to take more ownership of that. I mean, I know there's been times in my life when I didn't take ownership of um the choices that I was making in my life, or the inability of making choices, or discerning different things. And it's like at the end of the day, really have to discern for myself, because I'm the only one who can. Like other
Yeah,
people could give me advice, other people could make suggestions, but at the end of the day, I'm the only one who really knows.
yeah,
And I might not know, but I do. I'm the one doing it.
right, right. And I think it's
Yeah.
easy for when someone gets around someone like I was being, it's easy for them to fall into, oh yeah, you know what I mean? To just go along with it because it's just so fun and convincing and whatever. And so, yeah, it's important that we take ownership of our own stuff, and we tell people like me when I get in there and try and commandeer what's going on and say, hey, no, that's cool, but yeah, that's not what I'm doing.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
and there might be a time and place for that when you can trust somebody to kind of give
right,
you a little bit more guidance, but I think, at some point in time, you gotta get to a place, um, where you can begin to do that for like, come
right.
to find that and understand that for yourself, I think, in order to really, like, grow.
Yeah, I agree. I
Yeah.
agree.
I'm hoping are we coming across okay on your end? Like,
I
am I
think
coming
so.
across? Okay, yeah.
I think so. I
I
don't have
think
any delays or hiccups over here.
cool. So the audio should be cute, and the video hopefully too. It's like it feels a little glitchy on my end for some reason, but hopefully
Oh,
it's playing out okay.
hopefully.
So how are you feeling about this being our last episode this season?
A little sad, actually. The time always flies by. And
Mm-hmm.
I get excited about engaging with people and getting to have an opportunity to have a conversation with you and get to see you. That's always awesome for me. But it's also challenged me a little bit and helped me also to consider some things I hadn't considered before. So I
Mm-hmm.
love to learn. So that kind of that engages me. So I'm going to miss that.
Yeah, yeah,
How
yeah.
about you?
I mean, I feel the same way too. It's like, yeah, it's like, where did the season go?
I know.
All of a sudden it just seems like it's done, and I'm like, oh, we're 12 episodes in, and um but yeah, I mean, I appreciate having it as well. I feel like this is where a lot of like growth happens for me. I feel like
Mhm.
it's where a lot of I get a lot of opportunity, I guess, to put words to my experience and my thoughts and things like that, which is helpful. And I think in
Yeah.
that even forming new ones, right? Um, and I think just coming to a better level of acceptance, I think, with things and more of a comfort of not trying to, like this season, I think I came to, especially early on, realizing, how much of what I was trying to change you in some ways. And there was like that little tinge of under there in certain areas. And I came to recognize that in our conversations very early on in this season, which just allowed me, I think, just to have a little bit more ease
Mm.
in our conversations.
Oh, I'm
Whereas,
grateful
like,
for that.
yeah, well, as up to that point, the first few, I was like a little, I noticed I was wrestling with something, but I, I didn't really know what it was, and I felt like I was struggling, but you weren't. And maybe you weren't even experiencing me as struggling, but I was like, I was noticing it and I was like, well, what's going on here for me, you know?
Well, I'm glad that you're able to work through all that. Now, sometimes I feel like um, we both have, I don't know what you even want to call it, um, convictions or uncomfortability or whatever. And I think we can sometimes see it or maybe even feel it, but we don't address it. So I'm glad
Mhm.
that we were able to do that because addressing it is how we continue to grow and to build relationship together.
Yeah,
And I
and
think we're
it
go
takes
ahead.
some time to like to investigate that too. And I think that's the thing that's been helpful is just one to have this like weekly check-in with you. I mean,
Hmm.
we do that outside of this too, but
Yeah,
having that kind of regularness, I think it just allows us to continue to pick up where we left off
yeah,
and build from versus kind of like starting over all the time. Which
yeah.
is not, you know what I mean? Like that feeling of like not picking up where we left off, where it can be harder to do the more time you have between things. So yeah,
Right. I
I
agree.
don't know.
I agree.
Yeah. Yes. I know what's it what do we it's like good thing we're coming up on the last season, huh? We're like,
We're like, okay, now what? No, just kidding.
right.
So
Well, it's
no.
so yeah, I mean, I think that's part of it too, is just I know for me, like I've been doing 2 to 3 shows 3 shows a week right now. And so it's like, yeah, like figuring out like topics and, like going from one to the other half the time. I'm like, did I say that already? Or, I know
Yeah,
I know I say a lot of the same things over and over and over. Um, but I don't know. That's something I just have to trust that,
it's funny.
that's,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, and you just have to trust it. So I'm not as famous as you. This is my big gig every week. Um, so and I enjoy it. But I have been also working on some um, doing some Bible studies, and I really enjoy all that. I'm excited for the holidays. So yeah, lots of things happening around both of us, as different as they are. I think it's
Hmm.
important to us, and I think it kind of molds us and shapes us and allows us to move through the seasons that we have together, and
Yeah.
learning how to grow in our forgiveness. 'Cause I think that's what we saw. Back to the topic here, we saw the ultimate act of love and
Hmm.
forgiveness, and for us to be able to continue that, if we get comfortable and we never engage in anything that's uncomfortable, then we don't have an opportunity to learn how to forgive at a deeper level. So
Hmm.
I think the fact that you're in a public space and you're engaging more with people, and you're more vulnerable because you're in that space, I think that gives you an opportunity to not only get hit with something, but to have an opportunity to experience as well as learn to forgive at a deeper level.
Mm.
So, for me, it's a little different, but the same because I engage locally here pretty well in my community. I'm always out and about. And yeah, but if we don't, then I'm worried that, especially as I get older, that I don't want to get caught in a rut because I
Mm.
think that every day is precious. Every moment is a gift to me from God. and I don't want to waste it. I want to enjoy it. I want to savor it. I want to use it to be a blessing to someone else if possible. And so I don't want to get caught up in unforgiveness, and I certainly don't want to
Mhm.
offend or hurt somebody. So if I do that, I hopefully people around me will say, "Girlfriend, you just were rude to me, or you just said something I didn't like, or do you even know what you just said to me?" I want people to engage me in that so that I can fix it, you know?
Mhm. Definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was, like, trying to figure out, like, next season, I think, like, how we could do something different.
Oh, so are we gonna brainstorm right now on live? Because
I know, right? No.
I'm like, all right, well, I don't let me
I
see.
don't know, I think it would be interesting for us to have I know we're always wanting to hear from folks more, have conversation with folks more, so I wonder how it would be if we maybe had guests. I know we've brought it up a couple of times, but maybe we could come up with, like, a series of folks that we could either interview or just have conversations with, whether it's other, like, duos or, individual folks, could be
I,
cute. I know we've talked
mm,
about it a little bit here and there, but hadn't really, like, clinged on to either of yeah, that's what we should do.
right, right. Well, I'm totally open for anything. I haven't had anything land either that I'm like, oh, we just really need to do this or that. Um, but yeah, I think change is good, and so
Mhm.
it's time to mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, I think it would be good. Maybe we could have somebody come in and talk. Yeah, it might be interesting to talk about to get folks, and you had mentioned this actually in between the last 2 seasons, but about talking more about, I don't know, maybe there is some, like, LGBTQ, like, trans education or questions or information we could learn,
Hmm.
from maybe we could have, like, a guest, someone who's good at talking about that, um, who we can ask questions with, or you can ask, you know what I mean? You can ask questions and it might not feel so, like, personal, or I
Yeah,
don't know, it just
yeah.
might be an interesting thing for us to do.
Well,
Eliz
I'm open to try it.
Elizabeth is on, sending us a heart.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Hi, Elizabeth. I was like, somebody say hello, hello.
It's all good.
Yes.
So I'm open to doing that. If there's folks who want to be a guest on our show, let us know.
Mhm.
We'll put you through the paces first, and
Right,
just
right.
kidding, and then let you come on board with us. Um,
Yeah.
you know, I really was hoping on this journey together that not only would we be able to build a relationship together, but we'd be able to understand um, one another and I don't know, uh, love is so complete, you know, and I feel like as individual as we are and unique as we are, that there's spaces that we need to be able to connect. But I want us to be able to encourage one another um, to be the best we can be. And I want us to have conversations about, the things that I maybe do that you don't understand, or why do I do it, especially if it's something that you don't think I should be doing. Why is that important to you? I think those
Mm,
are conversations that we should have. Same thing for you. There are things that maybe that you do that I don't understand, that I'm like, why is that so important to you? And if I can understand the reasoning behind it, maybe it's an opportunity for both of us to learn from one another, and maybe go a little deeper. I was just reading recently in my Bible that sometimes when we're pruned, we'll get pruned at a certain level. And we get stuck there if we don't continue to dig or to continue to desire to be more. And when we start to move forward, they're going to prune us back more because that's the only way we can be fruitful in our lives. So I don't want us to get stuck here in this space. I want our life to and our relationship to be fruitful. I
mhm,
want it to be edifying to not only the two of us, but to the folks that are placed around us, so that people can learn more about who I am as a Christian, who you are also as a Christian, and as Bonnie and me as Tina. Who are we? What are our core values? Why are those things that we hold so dear so important to us?
mhm.
What's behind all that? So I think those are good conversations. I don't know how to put that in motion in a platform like this, or if it's something even that we should. But my hope is that I would like to have those conversations
Hmm.
because I'm willing. And that
Yeah.
doesn't mean we
Well,
always have to agree. Just saying, we don't always have to agree. We just need to have the conversation.
right, right. Well, I'm wondering if it would be, I wonder if we had, yeah, I was thinking, like, it, I think sometimes we might struggle with coming up with the questions or going there, right? I wonder
Mhm.
if there's a way that we can either, like, I know they have those card games where you can pull out a name and or like pull out a question or whatever and you answer it. So I was wondering if there's something like that that we could do together, or and or if maybe like my coach, like I was thinking, Bob Kaiser, who we've met before, and this is
Mhm.
just what kind of came to mind, but um, he does like a lot of mediation and like conflict resolution kind of things, kind of being in that middle space with like two different people. And I know we're not like in a conflict or anything like that, but I
Yeah.
wonder if there would be ways that he could prompt us and facilitate a conversation that would pull out more than what we're kind of been pulling out on our own.
Oh, maybe. That
I don't
that would
know.
be yeah, I'm open to that.
I'm sure Bob might be open to it or might have some thoughts about it. So I'll check in with him to see. I know we're having this conversation on uh, during our podcast, but I guess folks can know what's going on with us, and kind of where we're at. Mm, so I don't know. Should
I
we?
I really thought we'd have more to say on this topic, but, I'm glad we're not. I'm glad we're kind of in agreement on this topic. This is an important topic, so
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely something that to continue to kind of meditate on, and I
yeah,
think it's just a practice that I can find really helpful, when I can choose to kind of, you know, put it out there,
yeah.
say the
Well,
prayer, I guess.
I don't know if anyone's interested or not, but, I did a little homework because I wanted to make sure that I had context this week because I didn't have
Yeah.
context last week. And, you know, the Jesus saying this, and, um, forgiving them was a fulfillment of a prophecy of the prophet Isaiah that was found in, Isaiah 53:12. It even talked about the disbursement of his belongings. So I thought that was pretty incredible because Isaiah's prophecy between the end of the Old Testament and the beginning of the New Testament was 400 years. So it had been at least 433 years since Isaiah had spoke those words, and for them to be come out, that just confirms with me that he was who he said he was. And
Mm.
anyway, just some additional information when I was looking this up. Another reason why I think forgiveness is the key for all of us.
Yeah. And I was, I was just reflecting too in that, and it took me back to that idea that like, so like and maybe I'm just wondering, like, I talked a lot about the idea of people who unintentionally harm me, or that like the unintentional or ignorant kind of harm.
Hmm.
Um, maybe all harm, like maybe all of it is that, like even if somebody is like actively like just mean and doesn't give any F's, and like, do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, that's what was
because it's
happening to
important.
Jesus.
Exactly. Yeah. Like it was more obvious, like maybe didn't care. I mean, I'm to some degree, I think there was probably a misguidedness, right? Like there was some sort of like,
Well,
uh,
but there's always a reason for the misguidedness. In this particular
right.
instance, the misguidedness came from um, a place of greed and fear that the way they were doing things was going to be interrupted. These
Yeah.
guys were the government, the Jewish government, the high
Mm,
priests, the leaders of all that. Their lives were going to change if this was the Messiah.
right.
So
Changes everything, huh?
yeah, yeah. So these people were intentionally being. I mean, this whole thing was plotted. It wasn't an accidental thing. They found the guy in the group. They hired the guy in the group. They plotted the whole thing out. They brought a lot of people to get Jesus because he'd gotten away from them before. This was
Hmm.
all planned out. He had six Jesus had 6 hearings or court proceedings, whatever you want to call them, before his actual crucifixion. 3 in the church and 3 in for the with the Romans.
Mm.
So this was all intentional. The Romans were kind
Right,
of
right.
like, really? So, but yeah. So yeah. Anyway,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
Side note.
No, don't apologize. That's again, it's just more context to it all, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's why
Well,
I love reading my Bible and pulling out all that context.
kind of get more and more of it.
Yeah.
And I know that like what was I gonna say with that? I don't remember what I was gonna say, just something about like the literal like being able to get the whole context, and it seems like the more that you read and the more you look into something, the more it just kind of, I don't know, do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, all the pieces come together, the picture gets more clear. Each step of that, you're gonna be able to learn something and glean something for yourself. But the more the pieces come together, the more full you can see the truth in the context. If
Mhm.
you just looked up the names of these folks, there's so much here. The guy that he had the first trial with was related to the guy under Caesar Augustus. And you know what I'm saying? So there's so
Mhm.
much that brings it all together, and to see that it was laid out in the Old Testament before even Jesus walked the earth 400 years, that just blows my mind.
Mhm.
So, anyway, sorry.
Yeah. No, I mean, I
This
think
isn't
that's
a
like
Bible study.
the idea of like coming to know more of, where I think sometimes with some of this stuff I just curious about that idea of like digging deeper. I don't
Hmm.
know, it's what we do. I'm just processing that a little bit because
Yeah,
I think, I could just say, forgive them for what they know not what they do. The people who put Jesus on a cross and just like stop there. Like, I get it, right?
yeah.
um, but you can continue, and but we can continue to read more and dig deeper into that, and then it maybe becomes fuller, or I don't know what's your experience with that?
I think fuller is a good word, because I think, I can see the surface. Oh yeah, Jesus forgave these folks for all this horrible stuff they were doing to him, but understanding why. Why did they do
Mm,
it to him? What happened to those folks that he had around him that loved him so much?
mm-hmm,
Why wasn't there a battle? And it says that. Why wasn't there a battle? Why did he have to have 6 um, court hearings? Or why did he have to have 6? There's a reason behind that. Why were these guys so upset when he came on the scene saying he was the Messiah? Why didn't they recognize him? Another thing. Why did they proclaim him to be the king of the Jews, the Romans?
mm-hmm,
Why, there's a whole lot of questions there. Then if you ask those questions, you're
mm-hmm,
going to find more things. Laura, it's all about the questions.
mm-hmm.
When the more questions that you ask, if you look for them into the Bible or in the Jewish history, you're going to find a lot of the answers. You
Yeah.
know, um, so I enjoy doing that to a point, and it helps me to go a little deeper, because sometimes their why could be the reason why I've been struggling with that same thing for so long. Oh, I didn't
Mm-hmm.
realize I had an issue in this area. And so it gives me some insight into my own heart as to where I'm at and how I'm doing.
Yeah, which I think causes us to be more likely and able
Mhm.
to forgive. I think
Yeah,
because we can come to
absolutely.
understand more of the context, we
Mm.
can see the humanity in the person, or see what was really going on, or come
Yeah,
to
yeah.
understand what was really going on. Um, that's useful. And so I definitely know what that's like to do that with myself, to kind of like continue to kind of like, you know, um, I guess, study myself, if you will, and why I'm doing the things that I'm doing, trying to understand my
Yeah,
behavior and my decisions, or even like being able to let go of some of those things with other relationships, that I have, that sort of thing. Because like you can go to the Bible and you can read and you can get more context, but you can't often go to a parent, um, or or a family member and to ask them for more questions, right? Like sometimes you can, but sometimes you
Sometimes, yeah.
can't. Um, so I
I find that
understand the value and the need and the desire to that for that.
I think we
Go
have
ahead.
to be okay with who we are. You know what I mean? And we have to realize that
Mhm.
we're not perfect. We're on a journey, and we have to allow ourselves some grace in that process. I think sometimes we have a hard
Absolutely.
time allowing ourselves some grace. And I desire to forgive, and I feel like I'm a forgiving, loving person. But oh, well, let me give you an example here. Throw myself under the bus. Okay, so I'm a Christian. You guys all know that I'm a Christian. I feel like I'm a giver, and I like to help people and do kind things for people. And I have a beautiful neighborhood that I live in. We all of our neighbors. We know each other. We talk with one another. We walk together. We eat food together. I mean, we're just like a little family here in my neighborhood. I just love it. Well, one of our neighbors got sick. I didn't know right away. I found out because my other neighbor had said, "Oh, I'm taking some food over to them." I'm like, "Oh, what's going on?" She goes, "Oh, I heard they're sick. Just heard she was sick." And she went right over and brought him a thing of soup, set it on their doorstep, walked away and texted him, "Hey, I left you some soup on the door." I was like, "Oh my gosh, see, that was not my first thought." As a
Mm,
Christian person who wants to be a good neighbor, that was not my first thought. Well, then a few weeks later, another one of the neighbors, one of my neighbors is here from Canada, couldn't bring their car. They had to drive, so they're just driving their motorcycle. One of my other neighbors said, "Hey, we have an extra car. Park it in your driveway. Here's the keys. It's got insurance. Enjoy." I didn't think of
right.
doing that. I have a car in my driveway too. And so I felt like those were opportunities that God said to me, "Look, there's a lot of opportunity that you can be a blessing to the people around you." I mean, they're taken care of. So they didn't need my car. They didn't need my soup.
Right.
But the fact that I didn't even think about it
Mm,
was like, I would have much rather them had say, "You guys stop bringing us soup." You know, no, I have a car. I don't need everybody's car. I would rather have had
right.
that versus, you know what I mean? So, and no condemnation. I'm not beating up myself, but I'm like,
Right.
okay, Lord, help me to be a little more sensitive to when my neighbors say what's happening, that I can say, you know what, I can help meet that need if you need it. I'm happy to give that. And that's an
Hmm.
area that I'm working on, a deeper area, because, cars are a little more, is a harder to hand over keys to for some of us than
Yeah.
soup, you know?
Yes.
So it's like, okay, this is an area I'm praying about. Lord, help me to be sensitive to that. And when the opportunity presents myself, realize that everything I have is owned by, I believe, is owned by God. It's given to me by Him. That it's for me to share, and I need to share.
Mm,
So I'm learning to share still.
gotcha. Yes, we all can probably stand to do that a little bit
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
So we are at that 45-minute mark. So I guess we're done with this episode and this season.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't,
And those of you who didn't speak up during our brainstorming session, feel free to do that now and brainstorm with us on your comments, no matter what platform that you're listening to us on, because we really would like to hear from you. And we really want to be a resource for you guys if we can.
yes, for sure. And I apologize for any sort of like sound or glitchy things that may or may not have happened. um, and traveling, I sometimes never know what I'm going to get when it comes to internet connections, and I don't
Right.
know that it was the best one today. So I'm hoping that didn't,
I hope so.
yeah, cause too
You
much
didn't
of a ruckus for folks.
you didn't freeze too much on me, just a couple times.
Just a couple of times, huh?
Just a couple times.
All right. Well, stay tuned, folks. We were, like Tina and I are going to be actually hanging out in person over the next few weeks. We're going to be like cooking up some stuff. Maybe we'll do some
Yes, we are.
lives while we're together hanging out or whatnot. But at this point, we don't have a set time of when the next season's going to start or what's going to happen next. But just keep an eye out and an ear out and I don't know, whatever else you can out
And feel free to reach
to
out because we still want to hear from
exactly.
you.
Yes. Do you want to
So,
say goodbye?
yep, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much for allowing us to just have a little bit of your time and to share a little bit of what's going on in your life. Know that we love you. We're praying for you guys, and we are available if you need us. Have an awesome, awesome, awesome break from our season.
All right. Happy holidays. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Splintered Grace Podcast is brought to you by a queer chaplain. Follow us on all of our social medias, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook at a queer chaplain. Listen to us wherever you listen to podcasts. Subscribe, comment, like, and share. Feel free to tip us at Venmo, Bonnie Violet, and support monthly on Patreon. The song is original by Steven Sandnoff, The Chasm Between Us. Rest in peace, Steven.